Imagine a lecture hall in the late 1950s. The air is heavy with chalk dust and the smell of old paper. On the blackboard, a young linguist writes symbols that look like mathematical equations, not sentences. Graduate students sit confused. English sentences treated as formulas, trees and brackets instead of nouns and verbs? One student whispers, "Is this philosophy? Logic? Or magic?" The young professor turns, adjusts his glasses, and says, "Language is not learned from scratch. We are born with the capacity to create it." This idea, simple, elegant, controversial, would detonate across the academic world. The man behind it? Noam Chomsky. To understand Chomsky, you start not with politics or linguistics, but with a small immigrant community in Philadelphia. Born on December 7, 1928, Noam Chomsky was the son of Hebrew scholar William Chomsky and educator Elsie Simonovsky. Both parents were Eastern European Jews who believed fiercely in education. His childhood was steeped in language, Hebrew etymology, Yiddish newspapers, the structural beauty of Semitic roots. Picture him reading endlessly, absorbing history and grammar, while most kids were still struggling with multiplication tables. But it wasn't only language that shaped him, it was injustice. At age 10, young Noam wrote his first article, not for a school assignment, but in protest. The topic? The rise of fascism in Europe and the fall of democratic Spain to Franco. He wrote about class struggles he saw in Philadelphia and the political talk he overheard in his uncle's New York bookstore. It was the 1930s, and the Great Depression had turned the United States into a laboratory of economic desperation. The boy watched, listened, and learned. Late in life, he would reflect, "Politics came before linguistics, before formal education. I was shaped by what I saw." By 1945, Chomsky entered the University of Pennsylvania. His academic records were chaotic, brilliant in some places, uninterested in others. He skipped classes that bored him and spent long afternoons talking to professors who didn't teach his courses. One such man was the linguist Zelig Harris, whose structuralist methods fascinated Chomsky and whose political radicalism matched Chomsky's instinctive sense of justice. Harris saw something unusual in the shy teenager, a mind that couldn't leave questions alone. Through Harris, Chomsky met mathematicians, philosophers, and logicians. He soon gravitated toward questions that would define his career. Why are humans able to learn language so quickly? Why do children generate sentences they've never heard before? And most importantly, is language something we memorize or something our minds build? In the early 1950s, Chomsky married fellow linguist Carol Schatz. They would remain married until her death in 2008. Their home life was quiet, full of books, discussions, and the occasional chaos of raising children. Because yes, even geniuses change diapers. While teaching at MIT as an instructor, Chomsky drafted what became one of the most influential documents in the entire field of linguistics, Syntactic Structures, 1957. It was short, barely 120 pages, but its ideas were like dynamite. The reigning theory at the time was behaviorism, led by psychologist B.F. Skinner. In Skinner's view, language was a form of conditioned behavior. Hear a sentence, imitate it, get rewarded, repeat. Chomsky thought this was absurd. Children didn't learn language by mimicking, they invented it. They produced grammatical sentences they've never heard before, mistakes adults would never make, and creative expressions that made no sense under behaviorist logic. Chomsky's answer was revolutionary. The human brain contains an innate system for language, a universal grammar. It doesn't tell us which language we speak, it tells us how to speak. He claimed that grammar isn't just a list of rules, it's a biological capacity. Language, he said, is a mirror of mind. When Chomsky published his famous review of Skinner's version of verbal behavior, the academic world shook. He didn't politely disagree, he dismantled Skinner's argument line by line. Entire fields of psychology and linguistics reeled. This wasn't just criticism, it was a rebellion against decades of orthodoxy. Within a few years, Chomsky had transformed linguistics into something new, a science grounded in cognition, not just external behavior. MIT crowned him a full professor at only 32. Conferences filled auditoriums. Students flocked to him like pilgrims to a temple of reason. But while the academic world marveled at the linguist, something darker was brewing in the world outside. It was the 1960s. The Vietnam War escalated. Bombs fell on villages halfway across the globe, and in the United States, dissent grew louder. Chomsky, now secure in his academic position, stepped forward. He published The Responsibility of Intellectuals in 1967, a fiery essay accusing scholars and journalists of serving power rather than truth. He wasn't polite, he named names. He argued that intellectuals, especially in democracies, must expose lies, not polish them. That same year, Chomsky was arrested for anti-war activism. He helped organize resistance groups, counseled conscientious objectors, and co-signed public statements urging young men to refuse the draft. At one protest outside the Pentagon, he was detained. A quiet academic? Hardly. His political writings multiplied. Each tore into American foreign policy and media propaganda. Universities labeled him dangerous. Some accused him of treason. Others hailed him as a moral compass. Chomsky didn't care. His line was simple. If we don't believe in freedom of expression for people we despise, we don't believe in it at all. In the late 1980s, Chomsky and Edward S. Herman released one of the most influential works in modern political theory, Manufacturing Consent. It proposed the propaganda model, a system by which media in democratic societies filters information to serve elite interests, not by force, but through market incentives, ideology, and institutional pressures. The thesis was provocative. News is not a neutral window to reality. It is a constructed narrative, shaped by ownership, advertising, political power, and the silence of marginalized voices. The book ignited a firestorm. Some accused Chomsky of cynicism or conspiracy thinking. Others called it the most honest analysis of media ever written. Graduate students in journalism departments devoured it like sacred scripture. Activists used it to decode headlines. Governments quietly despised it. The message was clear. Democracies manufacture public opinion, not because citizens are weak, but because information is filtered before it ever reaches them. Few people in history lived two legendary lives. Noam Chomsky is one of them. As a linguist, he reshaped how we think about the human mind. His work influenced artificial intelligence, computer science, cognitive psychology, and philosophy. Entire generations of researchers were raised on his theories or raised against them. His ideas became the center of decades-long academic battles: universality versus cultural influence, innate structures versus usage-based learning. Even critics of Chomsky were defined by him. As a political thinker, he became one of the most cited living intellectuals on earth, quoted beside Gandhi, Orwell, and Martin Luther King Jr. His subjects ranged from Latin American coups to Middle East politics to neoliberal economics. He condemned torture, drone warfare, corporate monopolies, and the myth of American innocence. He wrote over 150 books and gave thousands of interviews. Yet Chomsky remains almost painfully modest. He once said, "I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious." He never chased celebrity, never softened his tone, never played the hero. He simply followed relentlessly the obligation he saw at age 10: fight injustice wherever it grows. Chomsky continued teaching at MIT until 2002, then moved to the University of Arizona. Even in his late 80s and 90s, he lectured, debated, and published. The world changed around him, new wars, new media, new crises, and yet he was still there, sitting calmly in front of microphones, dismantling political rhetoric with the patience of a mathematician. In 2016, journalists asked him about rising nationalist movements and right-wing populism. His answer was not theatrical, it was clinical. History has warnings. We should listen. Interviews with Chomsky are like being pinned under a microscope. He avoids emotional postering. Facts, data, power structures, those are his currency. He speaks as if the universe is a system of levers and pressure points. But his core is not mechanical. It is deeply, stubbornly humanistic. He believes people can choose justice over violence. He believes education is a weapon against manipulation. He believes democracy requires constant interrogation. That belief has cost him friends, admirers, and enemies in equal measure. Noam Chomsky did not set out to be the conscience of the modern era. He wanted to understand language. He wanted to know how children could turn thought into grammar. He wanted to solve puzzles of syntax and mind. But a world at war demanded more, and so the linguist became a dissident.